Chapter 11. 4 Cities, 1 Van. September 2001. Costa Mesa, California. The idea didn't come as a grand announcement, but over a half-empty beer can at a rehearsal where everyone was too tired to take their own doubts seriously. Eli was leaning against the wall with a notebook in his hand, looking at us like he'd already decided the next few months for us. "Costa Mesa's starting to feel small for you," he said simply. "Go out to other cities, too. 2 or 3 shows a week. It can be done." Nobody cheered. There was no Hollywood moment, just that silence that fills a room when everyone realizes at once that this is serious. That it's no longer just about whether there's booze in the backstage or who'll bring gas for the next rehearsal. "How are we getting there?" Roxy asked. "With that junk van my brother's trying to sell." Eli shrugged. "If it won't start, at least it'll make a good story." And that's how it began. Our first road gig was in Santa Ana. The van stank of gasoline and was unbearably hot. The speakers were tossed on top of each other and rattled through every turn. Half-eaten sandwiches slid among the guitar cases, and a box of drumsticks rolled around the floor as if it had a life of its own. Nova leaned her head against the window and slept. Roxy drummed her fingers on the dashboard. I tried to remember the last time any of us got a decent night's sleep. "If we die now," Cade mumbled from the back, "at least it'll be loud." We laughed. Tired, honest laughs that bind you together more than they entertain. The club was a narrow basement with a low ceiling and too much smoke. It wasn't packed, but it wasn't empty either. 30-40 people stood between the bar and the stage, and I immediately spotted the 5 or 10 faces who always came out in Costa Mesa. The same torn hoodies, the same raspy shouts already during tuning. "They really do follow us," Nova whispered. "Or we follow them," I replied. The show got off to a rough start. The mic screeched in the first song, Roxy nearly lost the beat at the second chorus, and one amp buzzed like a hive of bees. Still, it worked. People stepped closer. The room tightened. The noise turned into a pulse. At the end of the third song, Cade stepped to the edge of the stage with a short solo, and every eye snapped onto him. No posing, no virtuoso fireworks. He was just brutally present. His guitar cut sharply through the semi-darkness, as if a single nerve bound him to the crowd. When the song ended, a girl pushed forward from the audience. She looked up at him, ripped at her shirt, revealing a bright red bra. She pressed a marker into Cade's hand. "Sign this, please." He leaned down, hair falling over his face, and in that scratchy British accent that made every word sound a little more dangerous, he said softly, "Be careful. One day this might be worth a lot." Then he winked. She laughed nervously and squeezed her legs together as he scrawled his name across the red fabric. Her face turned bright pink, and when she tugged her shirt back down, she was still smiling as if she couldn't believe it happened. For a moment, the entire room watched them. Then the noise came back. The show was over. Cables slid across the floor, people headed for the bar, and the basement was just a dirty club again. On the road to the next city, there was no mercy. "Congrats," I said, looking in the rear view. "You officially have your own fan clothing line now." "Limited edition," Roxy grinned. "One of a kind." Nova, half asleep, murmured, "Hope you used waterproof marker." Cade leaned back in his seat, staring out the window. The black ink still stained his hand. His eyes had a strange, bright glow. In that long, gasoline-scented night, I realized this was becoming more than just gigs. At Huntington Beach, we played an outdoor skate event. The wind kept shredding our sound as if it wanted to tear our songs apart. The sun blinded us, and the concrete radiated heat up through our shoes. There was no real stage, just a low wooden platform beside the ramps, with cables slithering between planks and legs. Skateboards clattered constantly, like the city itself wanted to join our rhythm. That night, Nova was rock solid. She didn't move much or strike any poses. She simply stood in the wind, her red hair whipping across her face, and played, deeply, precisely. She had a presence you can't learn. It just happens to you. After the show, while we packed up, a skinny kid with a skateboard under his arm approached her. He was 15 or 16, carrying a beaten-up bass case he seemed too proud of for its condition. "Hey, Nova?" he said, uncertain. She looked at him, still catching her breath. "Yeah?" He swallowed. "I just wanted to say, I started playing bass because of you. I saw you a few weeks ago in Costa Mesa. Since then, I've practiced every day. My fingers hurt, but I don't care." Nova was silent for a moment, then she gave a faint smile and stepped closer. "You're on the right path," she told him. He straightened as if awarded an invisible medal, nodded, and rolled back toward the ramps where his friends waved. Later in the van, Roxy broke the silence. "This is weird." "What?" I asked. "That someone chose their instrument because of us? And we're still trying to figure out what the hell we're doing." Nova stared out the window. The sun was low over the ocean. "Well, maybe it's time we figure it out," she laughed. By Long Beach, we weren't even the smallest band on the poster anymore. We stood in a dark corridor that passed for backstage while the previous act on stage tried to shout over their own amps. The hunger and uncertain determination on their faces was exactly what we used to wear every show only months ago. "Look at them," Cade whispered, nodding toward the stage. "They're just like we were." "We are," I corrected him. By then, the roads had blurred together. City names were sometimes just stickers at gas stations, money was always scarce, the tank nearly empty, and our day mattresses had molded to our bodies' shapes. But the songs sounded better. That little crew from Costa Mesa wasn't a coincidence anymore. They showed up everywhere, sometimes even before us. That club was bigger, louder, more dangerous. The crowd wasn't just nodding along. They were pushing, jumping, burning. In the middle of the third song, a small mosh pit started at the front. First, 2 guys shoved each other, then 5 or 6 spun around on the dusty floor, out of control. I felt the tempo start to fall apart. Roxy, however, didn't slow down. She jumped off her drum throne and slammed the next beat into the snare with everything she had, yanking the tempo back with brutal energy until the whole room locked in. Suddenly, the mosh pit wasn't chaos, but a pulsing, shared wave. "Let's go!" she shouted, her hair flying with every hit. The crowd roared. Someone climbed the edge of the stage, then dove back into the mass. The sound became at once dangerous and beautiful. When the song ended, Roxy just leaned back on her stool, panting and grinning. "Okay, this is almost a sport," she said. Later in the van, her hands still shook from adrenaline. "I seriously thought we'd fall apart out there, but hit hard enough and they lock into the beat," she laughed, her hands trembling. I glanced at Nova. Cade stared out the window. And I realized every city gives us something, not just a show, but a piece of who we're becoming. One evening, heading to Irvine, the van died at a red light. No sputter, no warning. The engine just cut off. The fan noise stopped, the radio went silent, and the hush was so thick you could almost hear your own thoughts. No one spoke for the first few seconds. City lights flickered coldly around us. Cars honked behind. Yet somehow we felt trapped in our own bubble. Nova sighed first. Okay, either rock history ends here, or we push. Roxy laughed. Classic career arc. We're about to go big, then our van dies at a red light. Cade was already opening his door, grinning at his own brand of impossible optimism. Then let's push. I haven't signed enough bras to die here. We climbed out. The asphalt was still warm, and through our shoes we felt the city's cooling body beneath. The van was heavier than we'd thought. On the first push, it barely budged. On the second, it moved inches. One more, come on! Roxy shouted, throwing her full weight into it. We laughed, cursed, and sweated. Traffic parted around us as though we were an obstacle in someone else's story. The light turned green, then red again, until we finally had enough momentum to roll. Somewhere between that intersection and the next, it wasn't anger pushing us anymore, but a strange, shared joy. The realization that this whole thing, the noise, the uncertainty, the tight money, the gasoline-scented nights, wasn't temporary. It was our life now. When we finally tumbled back into the seats, gasping and grinning, I leaned back and stared into the darkness beyond the window. The city's neon lights streaked across my vision. And then I truly understood. We aren't just a band or a circle of friends. This is a way of life. A noisy, uncertain, stubbornly alive proof that you can set out with a beaten-up van, 20 loyal strangers, and a handful of songs and tell yourself, there's no turning back now. The Irvine show was in a low-ceilinged, neon-lit club where the stage was really only a slightly raised wooden floor. The air was hot, thick with the smell of beer and that tired kind of excitement, as if everyone knew this wasn't a big concert, but that something important was happening anyway. When we went on, we glanced at each other for a moment, no words needed. There was that silent, synchronized certainty born only after too many shared nights. In the first song, we were still finding the sound, the space, each other's breath in the noise. By the second song, everything clicked. Nova's bass rumbled up from under our feet and settled in the chests of the audience like an invisible current. Roxy's beats grew harder, yet more precise, as if every strike said, "We're here, and we won't sell out." Cade's guitar wasn't looking for solos, but opening a path. And I realized I wasn't singing into the mic. I was screaming with my entire body what we'd been trying to say for months. The crowd wasn't big, but at a point there was no line between us and them anymore. The front row leaned in and we instinctively stepped closer, as if we wanted to stand on the same level. Lights flashed, sound bounced off the walls, and out of the noise, pure joy burst free. A joy that needs no permission, it just happens. During a short break, Nova looked at me, her hair plastered by sweat, her eyes blazing. "Remember the rooftop?" she yelled above the din. I nodded. How could I forget? That night when we were still just dreams in each other's lives, and she said, as if it were law, "I want to play music. I want to play music with you." On the next song, we didn't think. We just went forward. The sound swelled, the pace grew wilder, and for a moment the whole world shrank into those few square meters. None of the money we had, the gas we'd burn, or the mattresses we shared mattered. All that mattered was that we were alive and making music together. When it was over, there was no roaring applause or curtain fall, just heavy breathing, grins, and that forehead-to-forehead silence that became our ritual at each show's end, plus the quiet certainty that we were doing something very important, even if nobody outside understood it yet.